Mark your books at number 23. We'll use that for an invitation song in a few minutes. So I want us to look at 2 Kings chapter 8. This is a story about the Shunammite woman that Elisha had visited and frequently stayed with in 2 Kings chapter 8. And we're going to read what happens to her, and then, of course, how the king restores her land. And it says, starting in verse 1, it says, "Now Elisha spoke to the woman," talking about the Shunammite woman, "whose son he had restored to life, saying, 'Arise and go with your household and sojourn wherever you can sojourn. For the Lord has called for a famine, and it shall even come on the land for 7 years.' So the woman arose and did according to the word of the man of God, and she went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came about at the end of the 7 years that the woman returned from the land of the Philistines, and she went out to appeal to the king for her house and for her field. Now the king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, 'Please relate to me all the great things that Elisha has done.' And it came about as he was relating to the king how he had restored to life the one who was dead, that behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life appealed to the king for her house and for her field. And Gehazi said, 'My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elijah restored to life.' When the king asked the woman, she related it to him. So the king appointed for her a certain officer, saying, 'Restore all that was hers, and all the produce of the field from the day that she left the land, even until now.'" So I really love this passage because we see, of course, the workings of God. We see the providence of God here. And of course, Romans chapter 15, verse 4 says that all that was written before time was written for our learning. So, what can we learn from this? And why is this story in here? What does it mean? What can we learn from it? Um, well, we see here how God provided for this Shunammite, which we also could call her a Canaanite woman. And it reminds me of the story in the New Testament uh, where a woman, a Canaanite woman, comes to Jesus from basically the same area. She was a Shunammite woman as well, and asked for her daughter to be healed. And remember, Jesus said to her, uh, you know, only the food is for the children, and she said, "Well, even the little dogs get the scraps." And she just wanted just a crumb from Jesus. So I think this is here for that reason. First of all, we have a basis. We know about a Shunammite woman, and then this woman comes along in the New Testament. So it gives us a little bit of clarity and some history and some reference on when Jesus encounters a Shunammite woman. So that's one thing that we can point out there. Um, it the story talks about Gehazi, the servant of Elisha. Of course, we know Gehazi was the one who was greedy when Naaman came uh, to uh, to the prophet of God to be healed of his leprosy. And of course, he went and he did. Finally, he did what the prophet told him to do, to go dip in the Jordan River, and he did that, and he was healed. And so then he came back to give the prophet a gift, but the prophet wouldn't take it. So Gehazi chased him down and lied to him and said, "Oh, the prophet changed his mind. He wants the gift." And so Gehazi took the gifts, and then because of that, uh, Elisha told him he would have the leprosy himself, and so that was a bad thing to have in this day and age. So we learn a little bit about Gehazi. Um, we see here that God provided for this woman several ways. First of all, he had the prophet warn her that a famine was coming. And, you know, famines in that day and time were pretty severe things because if you couldn't work the land and grow stuff, then you didn't get to eat. It wasn't like we are today. We can ship stuff all around the world, so it doesn't matter if one part of the world is having a problem; they can get it from somewhere else. So we don't even understand. I think in this day and age how serious a famine can be uh, because we have so many resources we can pull from so many different places. But it was a pretty serious thing, and this was going to be for 7 years, and so that's a long time to have a famine. And so God looked out for this woman. He had the prophet go to her and say, you need to go take a trip somewhere else because God's going to bring a famine. We see that God also provided for her by restoring her property to her. And of course, she had to do her part. She had to go ask for it. Uh, but we see here that the king gladly gives it to her, makes sure that she has everything that she needs. I think we see the providence of God here in verse 5 particularly. Uh, Let me read that again, and you see how this unfolded. And it came about as he was relating to the king how he had restored to life the one who was dead, that behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life appealed to the king for her house and for her field. Coincidence? I don't think so. I think that's the providence of God. And in our lives, if we think, when good things happen to us, like maybe this, that the timing or whatever, that it's just a coincidence. Maybe you need to look at that again because it might be the providence of God because God's hand is in everything. And so if some good fortune happens to you and it's all a matter of timing, it was probably the providence of God that played out. And he just happened to have the king in the right place and the prophet in the right place and the woman and her son in the right place all at the same time. I think that's more than just coincidence. And so it turned out here that she received more than she asked for. She just wanted her house and her field. But look what the king said: restore all that was hers and all the produce of the field from the day she left the land, even until now. Now, she had been gone for 7 years. Now, they were under a famine, so I don't know what kind of produce the land or the field would have produced during that time. But she wasn't able to get it, and if there was some, I'm sure somebody else got it. So the king said to restore all of that to her, whatever she missed out on. So my thinking is it must have been taken out of his storehouse and given to her much abundance. So she got way more than she asked for. She just wanted her house and her field, and she got much more than that. Well, how does this apply to us today? Well, I think we have to understand God will take care of us. He will always provide. His providence is always working in our lives, and He will give us the things that we need, and He will give us even more. Just like the woman got more, He will give us more than we deserve. And we deserve death because of sin. Well, we have spiritual life because of Jesus, but blessings, in this life, material blessings, we have those as well. God is going to take care of us for sure. So I just wanted to relate this story to you and look at some things that I think that we could learn from it. I hope it's been encouraging for you. If you're in if you're in need of coming forward and making your life right, or if you want the prayers of the saints, anything we can do for you, come while we stand and sing.